Today, we're jumping into one of the most unbelievable startup stories you'll ever hear. Seriously. It's about how 7 guys from India, with almost nothing to their names, built a multi-billion-dollar empire, all because they had a skill that, for years, literally nobody else wanted.
Picture this, it's 1999. Panic is everywhere. The news is screaming about a digital apocalypse. The president is on TV issuing warnings. The entire digital world, which we were all just starting to get used to, is about to crash hard.
And that's where our story really kicks off. How in the world did a completely unknown group of 7 engineers from India, who'd spent nearly 2 decades just grinding it out in total obscurity, suddenly become the heroes the entire planet needed to save it?
Okay, so let's break this down. The villain of the story is something called the Y2K bug. You gotta remember, back in the 60s and 70s, computer memory was crazy expensive. So to save space, programmers took a shortcut. Instead of writing out the full year, like 1961, they'd just write 61. Seems smart at the time, right? Well, it was a ticking time bomb.
As we got closer to the year 2000, people realized that when the clock hit midnight, all these computers would read 00 and think it was 1900, not 2000, and the world freaked out. I mean, people were predicting absolute chaos, power grids going dark, bank systems just seizing up, and get this, even the accidental launch of nuclear weapons. Society's entire digital backbone was about to snap. So the fix sounded simple. Someone just had to go through millions and millions of lines of old, boring code and change every 99 to 199. The problem? In America, the dot-com bubble was raging. All the smartest engineers were off trying to build the next Amazon, not digging through ancient computer systems. Nobody wanted this job.
The world was getting desperate, and that desperation cracked open a door for a really unlikely hero, a small, kinda unknown company from India called Infosys.
But to really get how they were so perfectly positioned for this one moment, we have to go back, way back, 18 years to 1981, when it all began.
This is it. This is everything they started with. 10,000 rupees. You know what that is today? It's barely over $100 US. $100! Not to start a coffee shop, to start a global software company. It's insane.
And that money? It didn't come from some slick venture capitalist. It was the personal savings of Sudha Murty, the wife of the founder, Narayana Murthy. It was an investment built on belief, on family. That one single act of trust is what launched what would become a $75 billion empire. And you have to understand, the world they were starting in was just brutal. While the US was having this huge tech boom, India was stuck under something called the license Raj, a system of just suffocating government red tape. You needed a license for everything. Taxes were sky high. You might have to wait years, literally years, just to get permission to import a single computer.
I mean, their hustle was just legendary. For the first 2 years, they didn't even own a computer. Can you imagine? They'd write code on pieces of paper in India, then take turns flying to their client's office in New York just to type it all in. While their American counterparts were living it up, the Infosys founders were all crammed in a tiny apartment cooking dal to save every last penny. This was the definition of the grind.
But here's the thing. Their success wasn't just about pure hard work. They were also playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. This wasn't just about grit. It was about genius strategic moves.
So, how'd they even get their foot in the door? Well, their very first client came from Narayana Murthy's old job. The client didn't invest in a company with no office and no computer. No way! He invested in Murthy himself, in his personal reputation for being excellent. It's a huge lesson. In the beginning, your reputation is the only currency you have.
Their next move was just as brilliant. They knew they couldn't just walk into a giant company like Reebok and get a meeting. They needed a Trojan horse, and they found one in a consulting firm called KSA. See, KSA had the trust of all these big brands, but they couldn't actually build the software they were recommending. Infosys could, so they teamed up. KSA would do the talking, Infosys would do the building. It was a masterstroke that got them in the door with some of the biggest companies on the planet.
So for years and years, they grinded and they strategized. And then, 1999, the moment arrived. This is where 18 years of preparation slammed right into a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It took them 2 years just to afford their very first computer. A full decade of battling bureaucracy before India's economy even started to open up. This was not an overnight success story. This was a marathon of patience, a masterclass in playing the long game.
And then, the explosion.
Because of Y2K, their revenue nearly doubled in a single year. By 2002, it had more than quintupled. That one global crisis turned 18 years of struggle into an absolute rocket ship.
And here it is. Here's the most beautiful, ironic twist in this whole story. The very thing that held them back for so long, their lack of access to new, shiny technology, it became their superpower. For 18 years, they had been forced to work on the exact same old, clunky mainframe systems that the rest of the world had moved on from. They had accidentally become the world's leading experts on a problem nobody else wanted, right at the moment it became the only problem that mattered.
So what's the big lesson we can take away from this whole incredible journey? Well, when you boil it all down, it really comes down to one powerful idea.
For the first 10 years, from 1981 to 1991, nobody was cheering for Infosys. Most people would have quit. But Murthy and his team didn't win because they were the smartest engineers on Earth. They won because they were the most patient and the most persistent. They just refused to give up.
So, if you feel like you're pushing against a wall right now in your own life, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe that wall is just there to stop all the people who don't want it as badly as you do. The lesson from Infosys is that sometimes the biggest obstacle you've been fighting for years is secretly preparing you for your greatest moment. The only question is, will you still be around when it finally arrives?